Fame gave him everything until he learned his success was rooted in ancestral betrayal. Can blood forgive such lies? Subscribe for more powerful real-life stories. The first time the world noticed him, it was because his colors seemed alive. Critics said his paintings breathed history, pain, and glory all at once. He was born in a crowded African city where survival demanded creativity before comfort. As a child, he sketched on torn paper and painted on scraps of wood. His talent felt less learned and more inherited, as if guided by unseen hands. Neighbors whispered that his gift was ancestral. He dismissed those words as poetic exaggeration. At the time, he had no reason to question them. His rise from obscurity was swift and intoxicating. Galleries that once ignored him competed for his attention. International collectors paid fortunes for his canvases. His work fused ancient African symbols with modern abstraction. Each piece told a story older than memory, yet fresh with emotion. Interviewers asked where his inspiration came from. He always answered with a smile and vague references to heritage. Something deeper stirred beneath his confidence. Though he could not name it, success reshaped his life in dramatic ways. He moved from a cramped apartment to a sunlit studio overlooking the city. Invitations to global exhibitions arrived weekly. Wealth followed fame, bringing comfort he never imagined as a child. Yet with success came a strange sense of unease. Some nights, his dreams were filled with unfamiliar rituals and forgotten voices. He woke with images he felt compelled to paint. The feeling was powerful and unsettling. He assumed genius often came with discomfort. Whispers began circulating in elite art circles. Critics noticed how his motifs resembled sacred patterns rarely seen outside museums. Elders from distant communities claimed his work echoed lost relics. These claims were subtle but persistent. He laughed them off publicly, calling them coincidences. Privately, he wondered how strangers could describe his visions so precisely. His family avoided such conversations whenever they surfaced. Silence became their shield. He mistook it for humility. His family history was always fragmented. Stories of his ancestors changed, depending on who told them. Certain names were spoken with reverence. Others never mentioned at all. There were rumors of wealth lost and migrations unexplained. As a child, he learned not to ask too many questions. Respect, he was told, meant accepting what elders chose to share. That culture of silence followed him into adulthood. He believed every family carried secrets. He never imagined those secrets carried consequences. At the height of his fame, his life appeared perfect. Awards lined his studio shelves like silent witnesses to triumph. Interviews framed him as a symbol of African excellence. Young artists looked to him as proof that dreams were possible. His parents glowed with pride whenever his name appeared in headlines. Yet beneath the celebration, tension lived quietly. Certain relatives watched him with unreadable expressions. Their eyes held pride mixed with fear. He mistook it for awe. The shadow of the ancestors began to take shape through objects. In old photographs, he noticed artifacts displayed in backgrounds he had never seen before. Masks, carved staffs, and ceremonial vessels appeared briefly, then vanished in later images. When he asked about them, answers were vague. They were lost, sold, or destroyed, he was told. No one explained how or why. The explanations never aligned. Confusion took root in his mind. One artifact haunted him more than the others. It was a mask described in a faded journal he found in his grandfather's trunk. The drawing looked eerily similar to a recurring figure in his paintings. The journal mentioned rituals, guardianship, and betrayal. Dates and names were scratched out, as if deliberately erased. He felt a chill reading those pages. The resemblance between the drawing and his art was undeniable. It felt less like inspiration and more like memory. That realization unsettled him deeply. The parallels between his work and the lost artifacts grew impossible to ignore. Art historians began pointing them out during lectures. Documentaries speculated about how he accessed such ancient symbolism. Some suggested spiritual inheritance. Others hinted at darker origins. He tried to ignore the noise and focus on creation. Still, each brushstroke felt heavier with implication. His art no longer felt innocent. Questions replaced pride. Truth lingered just beyond reach. The family secret tightened like a knot. Elders avoided him during gatherings. Conversations stopped abruptly when he entered rooms. His mother watched him with concern. She could not explain. His father grew defensive whenever the past was mentioned. The more he pressed, the more resistance he faced. It was clear something was being protected. The silence no longer felt benign. It felt deliberate. And it felt dangerous. The catalyst arrived unexpectedly during a charity gala. A sponsor-promoted AD&A Ancestry project supporting cultural preservation. Guests were encouraged to participate for awareness and fun. His family agreed, framing it as harmless curiosity. He hesitated, but eventually consented. It seemed like a novelty, nothing more. He had no suspicion of what lay ahead. Laughter filled the room as samples were collected. Destiny moved quietly in the background. Weeks later, the results arrived with unsettling precision. His ancestry linked directly to a lineage known for guarding sacred artifacts. Even more shocking was a genetic connection to another family rumored to have stolen those relics generations ago. The data was clear and unforgiving. His blood tied both guardian and thief together. The implications struck like thunder. This was not coincidence. It was inheritance entangled with betrayal. Shock gave way to denial almost immediately. He questioned the validity of the test. He demanded retests and independent analysis. Every result confirmed the same truth. His family could no longer maintain silence. Tension erupted in the open. Faces once warm turned cold and fearful. The lie that held them together was unraveling. He realized his success stood on fractured ground. His identity began to crumble. The aftermath was swift and brutal. Sleepless nights replaced celebration. His studio felt unfamiliar, almost hostile. Paintings that once inspired him now accused him. He wondered whether his talent was stolen or inherited. The line blurred painfully. Fame lost its sweetness overnight. Every praise felt undeserved. His art empire suddenly felt fraudulent. Shame settled where pride once lived. Confrontation became inevitable. He gathered his family and demanded the truth. Voices trembled as decades of lies surfaced. An ancestor had stolen sacred artifacts during colonial upheaval. Those objects were hidden, then used secretly for power and protection. Over time, the theft was buried beneath fabricated history. The family prospered while the truth decayed. His talent, they believed, was a blessing born from those objects. Hearing this shattered him completely. The betrayal cut deeper because it came from love. His parents insisted they were protecting him. They feared the truth would destroy his future. Instead, the lie became its own destruction. He felt robbed of choice and honesty. Anger clashed with empathy in his chest. He understood their fear but rejected their justification. Blood, he realized, could wound as deeply as it could bind. Trust fractured irreparably in that moment. News of the DNA revelation began leaking into the public sphere. Journalists connected dots with frightening speed. Headlines questioned the origins of his inspiration. Social media erupted with speculation and judgment. Museums paused exhibitions pending investigation. Legal experts weighed in on artifact restitution. The empire he built trembled visibly. His name shifted from celebrated to controversial. Silence was no longer an option. Legal threats emerged from descendant communities demanding justice. Cultural leaders called for accountability. His supporters grew divided. Some defended him as innocent of ancestral crimes. Others demanded immediate restitution. He stood at the center of a storm he never created, yet could not escape. Fear battled responsibility within him. He questioned whether redemption was even possible. The weight of history pressed heavily on his shoulders. Running away tempted him briefly. Internally, the fight was relentless. He questioned every success, every accolade. Was his brilliance genuine or borrowed power? The answer mattered more than reputation. He wanted truth, even if it destroyed him. For the first time, art abandoned him. His hands refused to paint. The silence in his studio was deafening. Identity dissolved into uncertainty. He stood exposed before himself. Redemption began as an idea before becoming a decision. He researched the artifacts obsessively. He traced their origins and cultural significance. The more he learned, the heavier his guilt grew. These were not mere objects, but living histories. Their absence caused generational wounds. He realized return was not optional. It was necessary. The cost, however, would be devastating. He approached cultural leaders with humility and fear. Conversations were painful and raw. Some received him with anger, others with cautious hope. He offered transparency and cooperation. Legal consequences loomed clearly. Financial ruin became a real possibility, yet relief accompanied honesty. For the first time, his actions aligned with conscience. Redemption, he learned, demanded sacrifice. There was no shortcut to forgiveness. The decision fractured his family further. Some relatives accused him of betrayal. Others begged him to reconsider for survival's sake. He stood firm despite their pleas. Truth mattered more than comfort now. He accepted isolation as the price of integrity. Blood ties strained under moral weight. Loyalty was tested brutally. He chose accountability over inheritance. That choice changed everything. As artifacts were prepared for return, media attention intensified. Cameras followed every step. Critics debated whether redemption was performative or sincere. He ignored the noise and focused on restitution. Each returned object felt like releasing a burden. Pain accompanied relief in equal measure. He knew forgiveness was not guaranteed. Redemption was a journey, not a transaction. Still, he continued forward. The past demanded nothing less. His art slowly returned, transformed by truth. The new works were raw and stripped of grandeur. Symbols once glorified now appeared fractured and questioning. Critics noted a shift toward vulnerability. He painted grief, responsibility, and loss. The canvases no longer celebrated power, but reckoning. Creation became confession rather than conquest. He felt exposed yet authentic. Art finally felt honest again. Public opinion remained divided. Some galleries welcomed his new work cautiously. Others permanently severed ties. Financial stability disappeared almost overnight. He sold properties to fund restitution efforts. Luxury gave way to modest living. Strangely, peace followed the loss. He no longer carried the weight of deception. Integrity offered a quieter reward. His life simplified into purpose. That simplicity grounded him. Rebuilding trust proved slow and painful. Communities demanded consistent action, not words. He accepted their conditions without resistance. Workshops replaced exhibitions. Education replaced spectacle. He listened more than he spoke. Each conversation reshaped his understanding of heritage. Healing required patience from all sides. Forgiveness, when offered, arrived in fragments. He learned to honor even partial acceptance. Progress came quietly. His family struggled to adapt to the new reality. Relationships remained strained and distant. Some wounds refused to heal. He mourned the closeness they once shared. Still, honesty replaced illusion. He no longer carried secrets on their behalf. Distance became the cost of truth. He accepted it reluctantly. Healing, he realized, did not guarantee reunion. Some losses were permanent. He learned to grieve without resentment. In time, his story reached younger artists. They listened with wide eyes and caution. He spoke openly about responsibility and heritage. Talent, he taught, carried obligation. Creation demanded ethical awareness. His failure became a lesson rather than a stain. Students respected his vulnerability. His influence shifted from fame to mentorship. Purpose replaced applause. That transformation felt meaningful. The question of forgiveness lingered constantly. Could blood absolve generational theft? Communities debated openly. He did not demand acceptance. Accountability became his only request of himself. Redemption, he understood, was not owed. It had to be earned repeatedly. He committed to lifelong restitution. The journey humbled him profoundly. His brilliance no longer stood alone. It bowed to history and responsibility. That humility defined his new legacy. Years passed, marked by quiet persistence. His name slowly detached from scandal, not forgotten, but contextualized. He remained a controversial figure, yet respected by some. His art matured into testimony rather than triumph. Each piece carried acknowledgement rather than dominance. He no longer painted to impress, he painted to remember and repair. The shift felt necessary and true. Identity rebuilt itself carefully. He visited the communities where the artifacts belonged. Ceremonies welcomed their return with solemn dignity. Elders spoke of pain and continuity. Forgiveness was not promised, but dialogue opened. He listened with reverence and humility. Tears flowed freely without defense. The weight of history pressed yet softened. Connection replaced accusation, if only briefly. Those moments reshaped his understanding of belonging. Blood no longer defined him alone, responsibility did. The future remained uncertain and fragile. Legal matters continued in complex negotiations. Financial recovery was slow and incomplete, yet clarity guided his path. He no longer chased global validation. Local impact mattered more. He invested in cultural preservation initiatives. Art became service rather than spectacle. Each step honored accountability. Purpose anchored him firmly. Redemption became daily practice. Looking back, he understood the cost of lies. Silence had protected comfort, but destroyed truth. Secrets inherited pain, along with privilege. Confrontation, though devastating, freed him. He wished the truth had come earlier. Yet timing belonged to fate, not desire. Growth emerged from crisis reluctantly. Identity rebuilt itself honestly. He accepted his past without romanticizing it. Healing required truth, not denial. The question remained unanswered in absolute terms. Could blood forgive such lies? He realized forgiveness was not his to demand. It belonged to those harmed. His role was accountability, not absolution. Redemption lived in consistent action. The journey humbled him beyond measure. He carried history forward with caution and respect. Identity no longer rested on stolen echoes. It stood on conscious choice. That choice defined his present. His story ended not with resolution, but commitment. Commitment to truth, restitution, and ethical creation. The lies of blood no longer controlled his future. He accepted the burden of brilliance honestly earned. Redemption remained ongoing, imperfect, and real. Art became his dialogue with history. Each canvas asked difficult questions rather than offering comfort. He learned that forgiveness, if it came, would come slowly. Until then, responsibility was enough, and in that responsibility, he finally found peace.